I never meant for you to hear those words. They were never supposed to reach your ears, never supposed to escape my lips in a way that could hurt you. They were spoken in a moment of weakness, a moment when my heart was heavier than my mind could control. But you heard me, and the second I saw the expression on your face, I knew something inside you had broken, and something inside me broke too. It happened so suddenly, yet now it feels like time slowed down when you turned toward me. Your eyes searched mine, not with anger, not with shouting, but with something far worse: disappointment, pain, and a silent question that you didn't even need to ask. Did you really mean that? Honey, I swear, I didn't mean it the way it sounded. But sometimes words don't care about intention. Once they leave your mouth, they become knives that cut deeper than silence ever could. You know me better than anyone. You know how I keep my feelings locked inside until they pile up like a storm with nowhere to go. That day, the storm finally broke. I was tired. Not tired of you. Never you. I was tired of my fears, my insecurities, my constant worry that one day I would lose you. And instead of telling you that I was scared, I let frustration speak for me. That was my biggest mistake. When you walked away that evening, you didn't slam the door, you didn't shout, you didn't even look back. And somehow, that hurt more than anything, because your silence told me how deeply my words had wounded you. I wanted to run after you. I wanted to grab your hand and beg you to stay. But I froze. I stood there watching the person who meant everything to me slowly disappear down the hallway, and the only thing echoing in my head was, why did I say that? Honey, if you could hear my thoughts at that moment, you would know how terrified I was. Terrified that one careless sentence could erase everything beautiful we built together. Because we built so much, didn't we? Late night conversations where we talked about dreams like they were promises, laughing over small, meaningless jokes that only we understood. The way you looked at me like I was someone worth loving, even when I didn't believe it myself. You gave me a kind of peace I had never known before, and I risked losing it because I didn't know how to control my pain. After you left, I replayed everything in my mind. Every word, every tone, every second. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized something painful. Sometimes we hurt the people we love the most because they are the only ones close enough to reach our vulnerable side. You were never the reason for my anger. You were the safest place for my emotions. But instead of trusting you with my fears, I pushed you away with my pride. Do you remember the first time you told me you loved me? Your voice was soft, almost nervous, like you were afraid I wouldn't feel the same. I remember smiling because I had been waiting so long to hear those words, even though I was too shy to say them first. You made love feel simple, not dramatic, not confusing, just warm and real. And now, remembering that moment feels like holding a photograph of a memory that suddenly feels fragile. I wish I could turn back time to that day when you heard me say those things. I would choose silence instead of speaking carelessly. I would choose honesty instead of frustration. I would choose you the same way I always have. But life doesn't give us the power to rewrite spoken words. It only gives us the chance to learn from them. Honey, I'm sorry you heard me when I was speaking from my wounds instead of my heart, because if I had spoken from my heart, you would have heard something completely different. You would have heard, I'm scared of losing you. I don't know how to explain my emotions. I need reassurance, not distance. But instead, you heard something that sounded like rejection. And that thought breaks me every time I imagine how it must have felt. For you, I don't expect instant forgiveness. Love isn't magic that erases pain overnight. Trust is delicate, and I know I shook it with my carelessness. All I want is a chance, not to erase what happened, but to show you that one moment of weakness doesn't define the love I feel for you, because my love for you was never built on perfect words. It was built on real emotions. And real emotions sometimes come with flaws. Since that day, I've learned something important. Love isn't just about saying beautiful things when everything feels easy. It's about being careful with your words when emotions are messy. It's about choosing kindness even when you're hurting. And most of all, it's about admitting when you're wrong. And honey, I was wrong. Not for feeling overwhelmed, but for letting my pain hurt you. I don't know if you still think about that moment the way I do. Maybe you've already tried to move past it. Maybe you're still quietly holding on to that hurt. Or maybe you're waiting for me to finally say what I'm saying now. I'm sorry, not the casual kind of sorry people say just to end an argument. The kind of sorry that comes from understanding how deeply your actions affected someone you love. If you ever give me another chance to speak to you without the weight of anger or misunderstanding, I promise I'll choose my words with the care your heart deserves. I promise I'll tell you when I'm afraid instead of pretending I'm strong. I promise I'll never let my silence or my frustration create distance between us again. Because losing you isn't something I'm strong enough to survive twice. Honey, I'm sorry you heard me that day, but I hope one day you'll also hear me now. Hear the truth behind my regret. Hear the love that never left. Hear the voice of someone who is still standing here, hoping that broken words don't erase a genuine heart. Because if love is about learning, growing, and forgiving, then I'm ready to learn. I'm ready to grow, and I'm waiting, hoping that maybe your heart still remembers how ours once beat together. After that day, everything felt different. Not loud, not dramatic, just fragile. You still talk to me, but your voice had changed. There was a softness missing, a hesitation, like you were careful now, careful with your words, careful with your emotions. And I hated myself for being the reason, because love should feel safe. And I made you feel unsafe for a moment. That's what keeps replaying in my mind. Not the argument, not the sentence, but the look in your eyes. You didn't yell back at me. You didn't insult me. You just went quiet. And your silence was heavier than any harsh word could ever be. That night, I wanted to call you. I wanted to say, please don't believe those words. They weren't my truth. But pride is strange. It makes you hesitate even when your heart is screaming. I kept thinking, maybe you'll understand. Maybe you know I didn't mean it. But love shouldn't rely on assumptions. It should rely on communication. And I failed at that. Honey, I need you to understand something. When I said those things, I wasn't pushing you away. I was pushing away my fear. There's a difference. I've always been scared of losing what I love. So sometimes when I feel distance, when I feel unsure, I react defensively. Like if I say something first, it won't hurt as much if it happens later. It's a terrible habit, and you didn't deserve to be on the receiving end of eh. After you heard me, I started noticing small changes. You didn't look at me the same way. Not because you stopped loving me, but because something inside you needed reassurance, and I hadn't given it. Instead of holding you and saying, I'm sorry, I was overwhelmed. I let time stretch the distance between us, and time, when mixed with silence, creates doubts. I could feel them growing. In you, in me. There were nights I watched you sleep and felt guilt wrap around my chest. You looked peaceful, and I wondered how someone who loves you so deeply could be the reason your heart hesitated. I realized something then. Love isn't just about big gestures and sweet words. It's about emotional responsibility. It's about being aware that your voice has power, and that careless words can echo longer than you expect. I started remembering all the times you were patient with me, when I overthought things, when I doubted myself, when I needed reassurance more than I admitted. You never made me feel small. You never used my vulnerable moments against me. And that made my mistake. feel even heavier. Because you gave me grace, and I gave you pain. Honey, I don't want that moment to define us. I don't want one careless sentence to rewrite all the beautiful chapters we built together. We've laughed too much, shared too much, dreamed too much, to let one weak moment erase everything. But I also understand that healing takes time. Trust doesn't reset instantly. And I'm willing to wait. If I could sit in front of you right now, I wouldn't defend myself. I wouldn't explain it away. I would simply say I was wrong. Not wrong for having emotions, but wrong for expressing them without care. You deserved honesty, not frustration. You deserved vulnerability, not defensiveness. You deserved love that feels safe, not confusing. I'm learning now, learning how to pause before speaking, learning how to admit fear instead of masking it as anger, learning that loving someone means protecting their heart, even when yours feels heavy. You taught me that without even trying. I don't know what you're thinking these days. Maybe you're still hurt. Maybe you're slowly forgiving me. Look at you and don't look away. Where you don't step back. Where the world disappears long enough for truth to surface. You don't understand how carefully I've guarded myself. I don't rush into love. I don't fall easily. I analyze. I protect. I step back before I step forward. But with you, something feels different. Softer, less defensive. Before loving you, I want to kiss you because I want to know if what I feel is real. Because sometimes emotions grow in imagination, and sometimes they grow in presence. I want to know which one this is. When I think about it, it's not even about lips touching, it's about the moment before, the breath shared, the hesitation, the silent question in your eyes. Is this okay? And the silent answer, yes. That mutual understanding is more powerful than the act itself. I don't want to rush love, but I don't want to ignore what's already building. You see, love is not just emotional, it's energy, it's closeness, it's connection felt through proximity. And sometimes a kiss is the first honest language of that connection. Before loving you, I want to feel that spark, to know if when we are that close, the world fades or becomes louder, to know if my heart calms or races, to know if it feels right, because love built without presence can become fantasy. And I don't want fantasy, I want reality. There's something sacred about that first kiss. It's not about desire, it's about confirmation. It says, I choose to step closer, and stepping closer is always risky. What if you pull away? What if you freeze? What if the spark only lives inside me? These questions haunt me, But silence won't answer them. Only courage will. Before loving you, I want to kiss you because love deserves to begin honestly, not with assumptions, not with imagined chemistry, but with shared reality. And if that moment feels wrong, then I will know and I will step back with dignity. But if it feels right, if the world softens and everything aligns, then maybe love won't feel like a leap. It will feel like a natural next step. I don't want to love you from distance. I want to love you from certainty. And sometimes certainty begins with a single, gentle, respectful kiss. So, before loving you, before promises, before forever, before calling this something big, I want that one honest moment where fear disappears, where we stop pretending, where connection speaks louder than words. And if after that moment we both feel it, then loving you won't be a question, it will be a decision. I didn't plan it. That's the truth. There was no countdown in my mind, no dramatic decision, just a moment that stretched longer than it should have. We were standing close, closer than usual, close enough that I could hear your breathing change, close enough that silence became louder than conversation. You were saying something I don't even remember what, because I wasn't listening to the words anymore. I was watching your eyes, the way they softened, the way they held mine without looking away. And in that second, the space between us felt smaller, fragile, like one movement could either create distance or erase it completely. Before loving you, I wanted to kiss you, but in that moment, I wasn't thinking about love. I was thinking about truth. Was this real? Or was it just imagination dressed as desire? I stepped half an inch closer, not enough to force anything, just enough to test the air, and you didn't move back. That was the first answer. There's something powerful about someone not pulling away. It says, I'm still here. Your eyes dropped to my lips for a second, just a second, but it felt like permission wrapped in hesitation. And I understood something then. You felt it too. Maybe not as loudly as I did, maybe not as fearfully, but you felt it. My heart wasn't racing wildly. It was steady, focused, like it had been waiting for this moment patiently. I raised my hand slowly, not to grab you, just to touch your face gently, and you closed your eyes halfway. That was the second answer. There's a silence before a first kiss that no one talks about.